A city terrified, a killer who toys with life and death, and one man who doesn't care about the law. He'll do whatever it takes to catch him. This is Harry Callahan, Dirty Harry. He shoots first, asks questions later, and everyone knows his name. But the real story behind the movie, the secrets, the danger, and the crimes that inspired it will shock you. Watch carefully, because once you see Dirty Harry in action, you'll never forget him. Let's dive into the details. Imagine a city on edge. San Francisco, 1971, a serial killer on the loose, and the police force stretched thin. Into this chaos steps one man, Harry Callahan. A cop with a reputation for being tough, relentless, and unafraid to bend the rules. Known to the world as Dirty Harry, he doesn't just enforce the law, he defines it on his own terms. But what makes Harry so fascinating? And why does this film remain iconic more than 50 years later? Dirty Harry isn't just another cop movie, it's a study in extremes, a clash between law and morality, order and chaos. Harry Callahan's aggressive, independent, and sometimes brutal, yet he isn't a psychopath. His actions follow a personal moral code. He believes he is the last barrier between civilization and the kind of chaos a villain like Scorpio represents. In the film, Harry faces the Scorpio Killer, a character based on the real-life Zodiac killer who terrorized the San Francisco Bay Area. Scorpio's sadistic crimes, including kidnapping and killing children, push Harry to the edge, forcing him to take extreme measures. The stakes are high, the tension palpable, and the moral questions impossible to ignore. The story begins with Harry on the streets of San Francisco pursuing criminals while being constantly frustrated by bureaucracy. Inspectors, mayors, and DAs are all portrayed as well-meaning, but helpless, constrained by legal technicalities that protect criminals. When Scorpio kidnaps a young girl, Harry's impatience with the system turns into action. He bypasses standard procedures, ignores warrants, and uses violence to extract critical information. Today, these actions would be classified as police misconduct, but in the world of Dirty Harry, they are framed as necessary, almost heroic. The audience is forced to confront a dilemma: can extreme evil justify extreme measures? Behind the camera, the making of Dirty Harry is as compelling as the story itself. The film's original script, titled Dead Right, was darker and even more intense. In early drafts, Harry was supposed to face a robber, pull the trigger on himself, laugh and walk away, a scene rejected by Clint Eastwood and the producers for being too extreme. Several Hollywood stars were considered for the role of Harry Callahan. Frank Sinatra was originally cast and even suggested filming in San Francisco, but he dropped out due to hand surgery that made holding the heavy magnum difficult. John Wayne, Robert Mitchum, Steve McQueen, Paul Newman and Burt Lancaster also turned down the role. Steve McQueen had just finished Bullitt and refused another cop movie, while Sinatra and others were wary of the film's violent content. Ultimately, Clint Eastwood, who was only 41, took the part, insisting on the original script that kept the story tight, suspenseful, and morally tense. The casting of Scorpio the Killer is another fascinating story. Andy Robinson, a relatively unknown actor, was chosen for his unkempt appearance and ability to portray a psychologically unstable hippie. His performance was so convincing that he received death threats and had to unlist his phone number. Robinson was a pacifist and had never fired a gun before filming, forcing director Don Siegel to give him firearms training on set. Robinson's portrayal made Scorpio one of the most memorable villains in cinematic history, a terrifying counterpart to Harry's unyielding justice. The film's production included daring stunts and innovative filming choices. Clint Eastwood performed dangerous sequences himself, including jumping from a bridge onto a moving school bus. During the suicide jumper scene, Don Siegel fell ill, and Eastwood took over directing duties. Many sequences were filmed on real San Francisco streets, from rooftops to seafronts, giving the film a gritty authenticity that added to the tension. Even small details had lasting impact. The badge toss at the end almost didn't happen. Eastwood worried audiences would think Harry was quitting the force. The iconic line, "My, that's a big one," was ad-libbed by Andy Robinson, creating a moment that remains unforgettable. Dirty Harry is filled with shocking and surprising facts that make the film even more fascinating. The movie inspired real-life copycat crimes, including the kidnapping of a teacher and 6 children in Australia just months after its release. Frederick Newhall Woods IV planned the Chowchilla kidnapping in California in 1976, where 26 children and their bus driver were buried in a van, and miraculously, they survived. These incidents show how powerful the film's influence was on the public imagination. The Scorpio character drew from multiple real-life criminals, including the Zodiac Killer and Gary Stephen Christ, who kidnapped and buried a girl alive for ransom. The iconic .44 Magnum also has a secret. Because .44 blanks didn't exist, most gun scenes used a .45 Model 25 with blanks. Eastwood performed many of the gun stunts himself, ensuring realism while keeping production safe. The script went through multiple rewrites, including early drafts set in New York with Marine snipers and darker endings. Eastwood insisted on the original version, focusing on Harry's chase of Scorpio, rather than turning the film into an action extravaganza. Dirty Harry was controversial from the start. Critics like Pauline Kael and Roger Ebert accused the film of celebrating authoritarianism and vigilante justice. Kael warned of the fascist potential in action-heavy cop films, while Ebert critiqued Harry's disregard for civil rights. Yet Quentin Tarantino later argued that the film was reactionary, not fascist, and that Harry's actions were justified by the story's circumstances. The villain, Scorpio, is unambiguously evil, creating a scenario where the audience naturally sides with Harry despite his extreme methods. Modern viewers see Harry differently. In 2025, his actions, shooting suspects, torturing criminals, ignoring warrants, would be classified as police brutality and official misconduct. Social media often frames him as a relic of a pre-#MeToo world, with casual sexism and disregard for due process. Critics argue the film glorifies authoritarian policing, while others defend Harry as a necessary maverick operating in a broken system. The moral dilemma remains compelling. When the legal system fails, how far should one go to protect the innocent? The cultural impact of Dirty Harry is enormous. The film spawned a franchise of 5 movies, each expanding Harry's mythic status. Lines like "Do I feel lucky?" and images of the Magnum .44 became instantly recognisable symbols. The loose cannon cop archetype influenced countless action films, from Magnum Force to modern crime thrillers. Lalo Schifrin's jazz-infused score became a template for tension in crime dramas. Filming on real locations added realism that inspired future filmmakers, including Martin Scorsese, who cited the film as a foundation for anti-hero narratives in Taxi Driver. Dirty Harry also redefined the anti-hero in cinema. Unlike traditional heroes who follow the rules, Harry bends or breaks them to achieve justice. His extreme actions force audiences to consider moral and ethical boundaries. Scenes like the Kazaa Stadium interrogation, where Harry steps on Scorpio's leg to extract a confession, illustrate the tension between law and necessity. The badge toss at the end symbolises Harry's realisation. His methods, while effective, are incompatible with the legal system he serves. The making of Dirty Harry is full of fascinating production stories. The original draft had Harry being shot at by Marine snipers. Eastwood's insistence on sticking to the original script ensured the story remained focused on suspense, moral tension, and the chase. Andy Robinson's fear and training for the gun scenes added realism, while Eastwood's own stunts created unforgettable action sequences. Even minor ad-libs like Scorpio's line became iconic. These details created a film that is both thrilling and memorable decades later. The film's lasting legacy is undeniable. It is preserved in the US National Film Registry as culturally, historically, and aesthetically significant. The anti-hero archetype it popularized continues to influence films, television, and video games. Discussions about morality, justice, and law enforcement continue to frame Harry Callahan as a reference point. Social media keeps the character alive, from memes to debates about vigilantism versus legal procedure. Dirty Harry also influenced the public's perception of law enforcement. In a time of rising crime and social unrest, the film offered a cathartic fantasy, a cop who takes matters into his own hands. Scenes of shootouts, rooftop chases, and tense interrogations made viewers feel the adrenaline of real danger. The portrayal of bureaucracy as slow and ineffective contrasted sharply with Harry's direct, sometimes brutal approach, creating both suspense and moral debate. Despite controversy, the film remains beloved. Its tension, storytelling, and moral complexity allow it to resonate across generations. Harry's pragmatism, combined with his willingness to operate outside the law, makes him compelling, if morally ambiguous. The film's careful balance of thrilling action, iconic lines, and social commentary ensures that viewers are engaged from the first second to the last. Even 50 years later, Dirty Harry is more than a movie. It's a benchmark for action cinema, a template for anti-heroes, and a story that challenges audiences to think about justice, morality, and the consequences of extreme action. From Scorpio's terrifying crimes, to Eastwood's unforgettable performance, and the film's lasting influence on pop culture, Dirty Harry continues to captivate, provoke, and inspire discussion. It is a cinematic experience that blends suspense, action, and ethical dilemmas in a way few films have ever achieved. So the next time you hear the line, "Do I feel lucky?" or see a .44 Magnum on the screen, remember that Dirty Harry isn't just a character. He's a symbol of the moral tension between law, justice, and necessity. The film forces us to ask, what would we do if the system failed? And could we live with the choices we made? Dirty Harry remains unforgettable because it doesn't just entertain, it challenges, excites, and haunts the imagination long after the credits roll.